All right, coming up from the 18th of July to the 28th is the Durban International Film Festival, and joining me on the line to talk a bit about that from Durban, Chipo Zhou. Chipo, very good evening to you. Thank you very much for your time. Exciting times. Another big festival coming to Durban, and of course this is a great opportunity for young filmmakers to make their mark.
Thank you so much for having us. Yes, it's very exciting. It's our 40th edition this year, so it's a very big milestone that we're celebrating. We are arguably the largest film festival on the continent. We are the longest running film festival in South Africa. So it's it's a big celebration this year, definitely.
All right, so how many people are we expecting to attend this? Talk us through, the past and, how successful this festival has been, and what you'd like to see this year that will take it forward and showcase the best of what we have.
Okay, I mean, in the past, we've seen our numbers increase significantly, particularly within our market program, which is the industry program. Last year, we had about 650 delegates, and this year we're expecting over 1,000 delegates to come through to our shores for the festival. The films, we usually get traffic of about 30,000 to 35,000 people watching the different films across the city. Our program is, of course, not being screened in one area. We've got screenings in Gateway, we've got screenings in Musgrave, which is Durban Central, as well as Suncoast, which is on the beachfront. We also showcase films around different venues across Durban, Umlazi, KwaMashu, Inanda. The idea is to get people to experience not just the films, but the local cuisine, the Durban hospitality. We're expecting big numbers this year. Yeah,
and I want to talk about the quality. The quality of it is obviously very important. Are we seeing much higher standards when it comes to, the films that we're actually putting out there?
I think we are, particularly as a country. I think the standards are definitely improving. I think I was at a summit earlier this year where somebody spoke about quantity bringing out quality eventually. So what's happened is there's been quite a big number of films that have been made over the last couple of years, and so we have our directors gaining more experience, learning from their mistakes, actually embracing the new technologies that have come on board, and I think this has improved the quality significantly. So we're seeing more thoughtful, more insightful films. We're seeing creativity where genre is concerned. People are being more playful. There's quite a lot that's happening within this space, and I'm very excited because what's also happened within the space of the consumer, which in this case would be our audience for films, is with the advancements of artificial intelligence, the consumer has more of a say in what it is they get to watch. And so even filmmakers are being challenged creatively because they're engaging more with their audiences.
It seems to be evolving, and you spoke about new technologies already, but there seems to be a new forming digital trend, such as the use of your phone to make a film. Talk to us a bit about how all of this is changing, how with the simple use of your device, you're just able to go and start making a film.
Well, it's definitely opened up the industry. So people who would ordinarily not have been able to make films can now go out and tell their stories. It's made it a lot more accessible. It also means that the content itself has increased and people can tell different stories from different places. And so there's a whole wide range and selection from it. And because of the advancement of technology in this way, people can also work together without necessarily being in the same space. So you can collaborate on a film project, for example, when you're in 2 or 3 different countries, and just swap all the information, all the data that you need, and edit it all online. So it's really helped in terms of collaboration across borders. It's really helped in terms of getting the information out there, getting the films out there, getting audience audiences to engage with your materials. It's really also helped with, I think, the training and the learning of the younger generation moving into the future, as they have access to these cell phones that they can actually use to hone their craft.
Well, with the fourth edition, I'm sure it's also a good opportunity for you to sit back as industry players and talk about some of the challenges that you're still experiencing. What are those challenges currently within the film industry that you think, can be addressed in platforms such as this, where there are so many of you that really do come together?
I think a lot of the challenges, particularly more recently, is, financially. Our economy, particularly in this country at the moment, is in such a state where it isn't really easy to access funding for the arts. And so filmmakers are struggling to get their work made. And so these are platforms that we sit together and discuss what are the alternatives, what can we do to support each other as an industry. I think what we've been trying to tackle as well as a festival is the challenge that has been, and it's a global challenge in terms of inclusivity and diversity within the industry, getting more females to come in and direct and tell their stories, hear their voices, people of color, which is something that's a discussion that's happening throughout the globe. And you'll see within our current program this year is we've tried to be as inclusive as we possibly can to these marginalized voices. And so these are some of the discussions that we have during the festival, and we talk about how we move forward as an industry. And we've got several delegations coming through from across the globe. We have a delegation from Jamaica coming, a delegation from Canada, we have a Canadian focus, we have a delegation coming from the UK, from Nigeria, from Kenya, and we're all coming together and discussing collectively as an industry, as a global industry, all these different challenges that we face and how we can move forward so that the industry develops and grows and moves with the technology that's coming out.
Is there a discussion that you're having currently? And I recall just a couple of days ago there'd been a huge debate about issues such as colorism on social media sites. We had quite a number of actresses who'd basically been having a discussion about whether it exists or does not exist within the film industry. Look, apart from the many challenges, of course, that you are experiencing, is that one of the discussions that you're talking about when you speak to me about access and ensuring that everybody has opportunities?
I think access covers a broad range of subjects, and colorism definitely comes into it. I think it does sit within the broad spectrum around race, because it is about color. And I did actually follow that conversation on Twitter and the debates around it and dialogue around it. And I think this is what's important to note is actually these platforms have allowed us to have this voice where we can dictate and actually, talk about what it is that matters to us as an industry. And so topics such as this previously, we probably wouldn't have been able to hear about them or to know that people actually want to talk about them. So I'm actually quite excited. We've got a space this year that's called the Creative Corner, where we have different kinds of artists, including actors, coming into that space and having these kinds of talks and discussions. So it's going to be an interesting year this year.
All right, so what can we look forward to, Chipo? Tell us a bit about what are we going to see that's not been seen before? What are some of the highlights you think that many would enjoy?
Okay, so definitely we have a lot of films that are not seen before. This is the whole point of the festival, is to showcase some of these films that we would not ordinarily have access to on mainstream media. One of my favorites is actually The Bra, which is a comedy silent film throughout, no dialogue. We've got films like the Quantification trilogy coming out of Canada. We've got films like Honeybee, Canada as well, from director Rama Rao. We've got Solace, from Chaiko Omawale coming from the US. Really big names, really good, brilliant filmmaking, stories that are relevant, that speak to our audiences here in South Africa as well as universally and globally. What we've also done, I think this year, is to honor our history. So we have a 25 years of democracy kind of celebration retrospective, where we're showcasing some of the films that were made over the course of the last 25 years in this country, just to remember and to acknowledge where we're coming from in order to be able to understand and fully celebrate where it is we're going. So we've got films like Sarafina, which is a classic. We've got Izulu Lami. We've got Freedom Square. We've also done what we're calling African Perspectives. These are some of the films that we've selected from across the continent that just speak to, you know, the stories, the voices that you wouldn't normally see in the festival or on mainstream media, and we thought we needed to have that platform so we can engage as an industry with these films as well as audiences. We're also doing a decade throwback. This celebrates how far we've come over the last 10 years as a festival, and one of the directors there is Aquino Motoso with his film Man on Ground. We've also got Sarah Blecher with her film Mayanda that's being showcased. So it's quite a mix. It's we're looking to the future, we're looking at the current, but we're also, you know, looking back how far we've come, where have we come from, and just celebrating the talent that we've had over the years.
Well, Chipo, we're really looking forward to it. It opens, of course, next week, Thursday, the 18th of July, running until the 28th of July. Thank you so much for your time. Chipo Zhou is the manager of the Durban International Film Festival.